Hi, I'm Judy Friedman Kadish, um, Executive Director of AFSI, Americans for a Safe Israel. It's a pleasure to reconnect with you via Zoom today, and I look forward to meeting many of you in person in the near future, if I haven't met you already. As many of you are aware, our Mei Chizuk mission to Israel was canceled due to the ongoing conflict. We've now rescheduled the mission from October 20th, 2026 through October 28th. I encouraged you to reserve these dates and to join us. Detailed information and registration will be available in the coming days. Turning to today's agenda, Beni Sabti is exceptionally qualified to clarify the true thinking and intent of the Islamic regime in Iran. Mr. Sabti is an Iran expert at the Institute for National Security Studies. He was born in Iran in 1972 and spent his childhood living under the Islamic Revolutionary regime. After escaping Iran to Israel in 1987 at 15, he served in the IDF primarily as a researcher, focusing on projects relating to Iranian culture, its influence on cognition, decision-making, and media. One of the flagship projects he led was the establishment of the IDF Spokesperson platforms in Persian, designed to address the Iranian people directly. He holds a master's degree in political science and public communications from Bar Ilan University and was a research fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. Mr. Sabti lectures on numerous issues related to Iran and serves as a commentator on Iran for media outlets in Israel and abroad. He also served as cultural advisor for the series Tehran, a production by which I was deeply captivated, which was broadcast on Apple TV and Israel's Channel 11. We are so glad that my brother Ken met him at the JNS conference, and he has such a wealth of information to share. And therefore, without further delay, I give you Beni Sabti.
Hi, everyone. Good evening from Israel and good morning or good noon to you all. I'm very happy to be here and good things happen by chance. Yes, I met Ken in that conference of JNS and we talked, and of course I was recruited. He didn't ask me even. I was recruited for this event, and I'm so glad because the more we know about Iran regime and what it's doing to all the world, and you know what, let's put aside Israel for a moment. Of course it's important for all of us, but what it's doing to the West, to America, to European countries, to Australia, this is the important thing that you have to know about your area, your city, your country, and to defend it really. And it's not only about guns and weapons. Of course it comes, unfortunately, I don't want to say that, but it can also come, and I don't want to frighten you, but it begins with something else, with words, with the soft war. And this is what I want to discuss with you. Thank you for bringing me Judy and Ken again, and thank you for the introduction. uh, if you have any questions about Tehran series, so we are not so sure that the fourth season is coming out or not, because the reality and the imagination are so mixed today. So we don't know what can we destroy in the series. Everything that we did in Iran for reality it's a little bit hard for the series now. So I will go directly to the issues that we are occupied with Iran. First, what is happening in these recent days or weeks, and after that we go back a little bit to the roots of what is happening now. And after that, I hope that we have a few questions by you, the audience, and we can continue. I hope that you have as many and as important questions as you can. So in these recent days and weeks, you see that tension is growing and going up between Iran regime and also US forces or US as a country. Of course, Iran regime has this dream to be a superpower again. And this is actually the reason that they are talking only and they are only confronting US as a superpower. They want to be in that place. When the Israeli TV puts the pictures of President Trump and the new leader of Iran, Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the last leader, together side by side. This is the thing that Iran regime wants to see in Iran, that they are equal to a superpower, to a nuclear power, and they want to be in that level. And this is what we have to stop, because when they imagine that, they also want to achieve that. It's just like Soviet Union in the 60s and the 70s. When they try to be in that place, they will achieve that thing. And if we fall asleep and don't care about that. So in these recent days, they have these new excuses about the ships, the vessels or tankers that are going through Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz without their permission. Suddenly they own this area. Of course, this natural sea and passage is not owned by anyone until these recent months. It was a free passage for everyone. It's not Suez Canal or Panama Canal that you can charge the ships. No, it's a free passage for everyone, and they kind of took it as a hostage. This is a very bad tradition of Iran regime from 47 years ago, that they take hostages. And some of you maybe remember that they took your civilians as hostages when they were in a US embassy in November 79. They took them as hostages for more than a year until they got a few billions of dollars from Carter administration, and they even didn't kind of release them before the elections. They let Carter to lose, and the day after that they released the hostages. They wanted kind of revenge, and this is exactly what they are doing with the Strait of Hormuz and the oil prices, the fuel prices that you feel, of course, in your pockets, and all of us actually in this region, or maybe the whole world. They take us and that area as a hostage and try to pressure us. So we recognize them, first of all, as I said, as a superpower, and second of all, we let them sell their oils, relieving the sanctions, uh, bringing back their money, their assets, which are stuck in American banks or Chinese banks or other places, so they can have more assets and money for making terror, helping Hezbollah, helping Hamas, helping other militias in Iraq, killing Americans, killing Jews, of course, and of course the missile program and the nuclear program. They are the things that come after. I have to say that in my belief, in my opinion, the terror program is the hardest and the most evil program that Iran regime has, because all the other programs, the missile program and nuclear program, come from that. The nuclear program as a nuclear program is not a dangerous thing when it's in hands of a normal country. But when it's a terrorist regime, of course they will use it for killing others, especially Jews, destroying the state of Israel. So these things, the technology together with terrorist ideas, this is the bad thing that can happen to us. So first of all, this taking hostage by Iran regime has to be neutralized. The US administration, President Trump, is working in that. They don't want to bring the war back, of course, for obvious reasons. It's not a good thing. Soldiers are killed. Iran regime shoots the missiles again and again against Israel or against other countries. But they are almost doing the same thing like it was in the war. So it seems that we are going for more escalation and more escalation in these next days. I hope that the war won't come back to Israel, but this is what Iran regime wants, to make and to bring the instability to everywhere, to look like a superpower. Instability make them stronger. They have this emergency situation inside Iran, and of course they have the justification to attack US forces in the region or Arab countries who help or have bases of American forces in their countries. Jordan, UAE, Emirates, Bahrain, even Qatar and Oman, who they are their allies. They are attacked by Iran regime, by the missiles. Of course, they try to hit only the American bases and not to interrupt, especially their friends in the region. But sometimes they do, especially in Jordan, especially in Iraq, of course, they bomb the Kurdish areas and other areas. So they don't care about other nations. They don't recognize the borders. This is the main problem with Iran regime. When we make an MOU, sorry? Oh. When we make an MOU, when we sign an MOU with Iran regime, it's a huge problem. They are not honest. They don't recognize it. They don't honor it. So we have to be very careful. In the JCPOA period, there was another president in Iran. Yes, he was not the leader, but at least he was kind of a defender of JCPOA. And it's not that he was not a murderer, but at least for his credit and for his position, he defended JCPOA and he wanted to make it successful. And we had kind of a half ally inside Iran, and they had their clashes. This is actually the reason that the leader Khamenei, the father, made him more weaker and weaker in 2015, 16, 17, until he was kicked out of the presidency, and we had the extreme president Raisi, who was killed in the helicopter crash a few years later. And now the president is not relevant anymore, especially after the second war and the assassination against Khamenei, the father. The only ones who run Iran are IRGC generals. That unit, that SS army, and it's a real SS army because they learn also the Nazi ideology. IRGC is standing for Islamic Revolutionary Guards. It even doesn't have the name of Iran in its initials. This is a very important thing to understand. It's like Hamas. Hamas in Arabic is Harakat Muqawama Islamiyah. There is no Palestine in the name of Hamas. They are not fighting for Palestine. In PLO time, Palestinian Liberation Organization, at least they tried to fight for the land. There was a physical thing to fight about. Today, these Islamic radical organizations and also Iran regime, they are not fighting about the land. They just cannot tolerate other ideologies, other nations, other minorities. Of course, Jews and Israel are, they don't suppose to exist anymore, not one day. So this is the real fight with us and with other world. IRGC is in the front. They control the missile program, the nuclear program, and of course they help Hezbollah, Hamas. All the budget, all the missiles of Hamas and Hezbollah came from them. IRGC is a huge problem, and they also have hands and legs everywhere in Europe, in America, North America and South America and Australia with Islamic centers. They don't have their armies, the terrorist groups in your areas, but they want to bring it there also. How? By establishing Islamic centers, by making propaganda, washing the brains of many youngs, if they are immigrants or even naive Americans or Europeans or Australians or South Americans. In Brazil, in Argentina, we meet them a lot. a huge masses of poor and organized communities, that they bring them for a free lunch or free dinner and brainwash them and make them their robots, their soldiers. And this is the sad thing and the dangerous thing that is happening also in many cities in US, in Canada, in other places. Maybe some of it happens by Qatari money, but the ideology, the organizing, the brainwashing is in Iranian Islamic centers. I'm of course not against any religion, but Iran regime is abusing Islam for its purposes in your country, in my country, and every place that in the West is in a kind of danger. They I saw it in Stockholm, in Sweden, for example. They even bring uh, the Swedish people to their blonde girls, 4 years or 5 years old. They give them some gifts or painting hours, or having a good time together. But after that, they teach them the radical ceremonies of Shiites. They put the headband of Hamas on the head of the girl and sing with them the Hamas songs or Hezbollah songs. This is a very bad thing that is happening to everywhere in Europe or in America. And these demonstrations, these huge demonstrations, these masses of 300,000, 400,000 that are demonstrating about free Palestine, it's not just about free Palestine. We wanted to make peace with Palestinians, but they ran away and they are hugging Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran regime today. And this is the bad thing. As I said before, they are not fighting, or they are not talking anymore about freeing the land or arguing about the land or establishing a country. They just want to destroy Israel and maybe other countries. And all of it come from Iran regime and Iran, that those units of IRGC that are very, very similar to SS units of Nazi Germany, that we all know and learned about them. So these are the main things that make Iran regime very, very dangerous. The problem also with Iran today and their way of thinking is that they think that they survived the both wars by Israel and by US against them. Yes, they survived, but with a very high price. They don't care about the people, they don't care about the physical prices. They think just like Hamas, that uh, don't care about destroyed Gaza Strip. They also don't care about bombing many places inside Iran by US or by Israel. They don't care about losing lives of just civilians, Iranians. So they are ready to pay those prices of waiting, of what we call the patience. It's not a real patience, it's wasting time. We in the West don't like to waste time, but they want to waste time. They don't care about the prices of oil, so they can wait, and we cannot. They also don't care about wasting money for terror, for missile program, for nuclear program, and of course wasting lives. And this is our red line. We don't want our soldiers or American soldiers to be killed. So we stopped the wars. And they are thinking that we lost because they only survived with some generals and the new leader Mojtaba. They think that they won the war. This brings them more and more hubris. They are more and more arrogant, and they cannot think about making any compromise. Any kind of MOU is not acceptable for them. We have even some clashes inside Iran between two parts of Iran regime. The majority are the more radicals today. With the new leader Mojtaba, with most of the IRGC generals, they are pushing for more fighting, not signing the MOU, not signing any kind of agreement anymore. The minority, they understand that they have to gain some time and rebuild Iran, fix things that they have to fix, even in the missile program or terror program. But they are in the they are very few people that think that they have to be at least behave like they want this MOU or the nuclear agreement for a while. Of course, after that they will cheat and they will go back to their ways and their methods. But today we have radicals and more radicals in Iran, and they don't want to make any real agreement with us or with US. So this is again another part of that problem that we have with Iran regime, that hubris that become the fuel of this behavior of Iran regime. 2 minutes about the Iranian people, and after that we can open this for some questions and maybe a few words also about Turkey and Qatar. Uh, Iranian people are not in that place. They hate the regime. There was a secret poll by the Iranian regime in October, November 25, after the first war with against Israel and against US, that said an unbelievable thing. 92% of Iranians, the civilians, hate their regime. Only about 8, 9, 10% of the Iranians are supporters of the regime because they have benefits, they have some interest to survive with this regime. Maybe they are corrupted, they earn some money from that regime, they bypass the sanctions and they have some benefits of that. But the majority, the vast majority, 90%, even 80%, let's say 80% of the Iranians are against the regime. This is a huge mass of opposition. The problem of them, like we saw in the recent protest, that it was a huge protest, they are not so well organized and they don't have a leader inside Iran. There are some opposition leaders outside of Iran, like maybe you heard about the Crown Prince or other liberal oppositions, and even a Communist Party of Iran. It's a very ridiculous thing that it still exists. There is no Soviet Union, but there is a Communist Party of Iran outside of Iran, of course. And they are not so liberal, of course. They are kind of a murderers like Iran regime, but they are not so relevant. So they, from time to time, they come for protests like we saw in January. The regime unfortunately slaughtered them, many of them. Some talk about 40,000, 50,000 people that were killed by the regime. The more accurate number is actually the injured number of the civilians. 450,000 people were injured and they came to the hospital. So we know the names and it's documented and the number is more accurate. If 450,000 Iranians were out, it means that about 15 or 16 million people were demonstrating against the regime. It's a huge number. In nowhere in the world 16 million people demonstrate against their regime, and it's a huge number. We wished that President Trump and US Army came in that days when he promised them to come and to help them, but unfortunately it took time, the logistics and maybe other considerations. US forces didn't come in that days and Iranians were slaughtered, and we know the rest. But maybe they can come back. The situation in Iran is not good. It's even worse than what it was in January. The prices are 5 or 6 times higher. It's not percentage, it's 5 or 6 times, 500% or 600% paying more for rice, for milk, for any kind of basic products that you need. Salaries are less and less, of course, because the rial, the Iranian currency, is falling more and more against the dollar. It's actually one of the fewest countries that the price of dollar is going higher and not down, because the dollar is also a little bit weak in these recent months. So Iran regime as a regime is in a huge problem, economic, social, internal, and of course in a foreign issues. But they don't care about them. They became a suicidal regime, just like Hamas, just like Hezbollah. And I think if we push them a little bit more to the edge, they can fall easily to that place and not be there anymore. Maybe it can take a few months. Maybe the Iranian people can come out again and do the job. I hope that this time we will help them properly and on time because they need that. Even the hope, even the words are good for them because they don't care to be out and even to take the bullets. They want just to be free from this evil regime. They know that Israel is their friends, US is their friends. You know, the most popular slogan in the last protests and even from since 2009 was, I am not for Gaza, I am not for Lebanon, I am only for Iran. It means a lot. It means that they are friends of Israel, and you from time to time maybe you see some clips or some videos that how Iranians love Israel as a country, Israeli government. They put the Israeli flag or US flag everywhere. They changed the names of some streets. Of course, it's kind of a humor thing. They changed the name of the street to Trump Street or Bibi Street. Of course, they think only about the leader, but it means actually the US Street or Israel Street. But they know the leaders, so they go for the names. It means that we have millions of friends inside Iran. I hope that we can help them to change their regime, to weaken their regime, and the day after will be so much better. Also for our economies, for our countries, when we cut their hands and legs from our countries, even in the far west, in America, in Australia, in everywhere. So I wish to see you next time in a trip in a free Iran and not in this kind of uh, discussions. So I am ready for some questions. If you want to begin with the questions, we will go with that.
I'm
I
just
don't
trying
hear you.
to.
I think
Oh,
yeah.
yes, I just had to unmute myself.
Okay.
I had some dings going on, so I muted. Thank you. That was like so enlightening. And I have many questions, but I'm going to go first to the question there are two questions that came up from the audience that really go one with the other. David Goldfarb and Susan Rosenberg. David wanted to know if the regime can be eliminated, and Susan asked, do you envision a path towards successful regime change, and what would that look like?
Yes, I think I said it in other words in my last sentences, but I go from another angle to that. Yes, this regime can be changed very easily. As I said, the percentage of the support for the of the people, only 10%, only 20% of Iranians support the regime. Another poll, you know what? Another poll that talks about this from another angle. 4 years ago, Iran regime again did had another secret poll, but it was accidentally revealed to the people. 75% of Iranians as civilians, they love Jews. 50% of them recognize Israel as a legitimate state. There is no one Arab country that we have these results, even not those that we have peace with them. In Iran we have supporters. Of course for US it's a higher, much higher percentage, and they want to bring the regime change, but they have to have maybe some weapons. We tried to help them actually in the last war. There was a plan to make the Kurds of Iran and Iraq to invade some other parts of Iran, and there were some weapons that were given to them. We wanted them to invade to other parts, and of course, and also even to make IRGC to send some units from the big cities to other parts of Iran to make a division between these SS units of Iran regime and make them weaker. So when if we had less IRGC guards and members in Tehran, in Isfahan, in big cities, the protesters could be more successful, and even the Iran regime figures, they admitted that the protesters, even without our help, they took control of more than 100 cities, and 300 cities were so in kind of unrest that the regime thought that they are losing them too. So 100 cities will actually fell in the Iranian people hands totally, but the regime took them back, and 200 other cities, they were almost falling, but we didn't see the signs. Israeli government and US administration, unfortunately, sometimes we only look on the technical and the physical things and not on the psychological parts, on the Iranian people and what they are shouting and how enthusiastic they are. They took 100 cities. It's a huge number. I don't think maybe it happened in the French Revolution or something. I don't think that it happened in anywhere. In Venezuela, it was 2 hours of operation. In Iran, the people are with us, and if we help them, it can happen in a few weeks. I think it's the only solution.
Um, Benny, I saw a news item today. Tzvi Haskeli, who you know I from my 24 News,
Yeah.
said he wishes that the U.S. would bomb painful targets. What does he mean by it? What would be a painful target? Because what he's saying is, and I think you said this when we spoke earlier, is that the regime doesn't care about a lot of the border cities, and they don't really care about the ports, and they care about what they care about. What would be the right places for US to and Israel to be focusing on?
Yes. So after my talk about the Iranian people and how the potential is so big for them to come out again, I would go against these things that happened also in the last war, but I would do more about that, the facilities and the places which serve IRGC. This is the main thing. Those depression units that most of them also work in missile program or nuclear program or against Israel in Quds Force. Quds Force is the unit that trains or brings weapons to Hezbollah, to Hamas, to other terror groups in this area or makes propaganda in the West. I would bomb and hurt IRGC facilities and also other kind of facilities who serve Iran as a regime, not the people. For example, uh, uh, electricity facilities, they are not relevant. First of all, it's a very sad but maybe funny thing that we are talking about maybe bombing the electric facilities or dams which make electricity for Iran. But in these days, there is no electricity for the people for 3 days. They have such a lack of electricity. So why bombing the thing that is not working at all? Who has electricity? IRGC, the leader's office, or the senior figures. Let's go and bomb those things who serve Iran as a regime. That island, Khark Island in Persian Gulf, which through that island they still export their oil. That is the thing that we have to bomb. Actually, President Trump and US forces bombed it for once. They did it in a very small scale. But that thing uh, brought 80 million barrels of oil, of Iranian oil, in these last few weeks to other places. They exported 80 million barrels of oil, and it's many billions of dollars for Iran. We have to take care about these things and not the civilian things. So there are many targets. Jails. There are so many political prisoners. Then they can be the leaders of the opposition, the leaders of the protests. So bombing the I don't know, the walls, of course not the people inside, but bombing the jails, wow, it can bring also hope, and they can see that you are with them. So I think these are some examples.
Well, thank you. Great answer. Amy Pearsall, who I know well, has a number of very, very interesting questions. Um, she, four.
Oh,
A superpower needs an economic engine. What does the regime have to generate capital and further such an economic agenda? Do you want to hear all of them? Because they may work together. What are the most important things an average American citizen can do? How
again,
quickly?
excuse me, I lost a few seconds of the
Okay.
beginning of the question. If you can repeat, sorry.
So the first one was a superpower needs an economic engine. What does the regime have to generate capital and
Ah.
further such an economic agenda? We'll take them one by one.
Hubris, arrogance. They don't have any sources. They really don't have any sources. They just keep their face until US frees some assets. It can be a huge, huge mistake to give the terrorists money. It's just like what happened with Hamas, that we bombed them and we also sent humanitarian aid to Gaza. And they are selling it to the people by 4 times or 5 times of the price. Let's not do that with Iran regime. They have only arrogance. They don't have any kind of energy, or they are just keeping the face and lying to us. Let's not be afraid of their faces.
So is that the most important thing an average American
Yep.
citizen can do is just,
Yes. Let's bring the lie out. Talking about they are weak, how they are afraid of us. A little bit. I'm not talking on behalf of you, and know the problem, the economic problem that it made in US or other countries. Maybe if the US civilians can be a little bit more patient about the prices or something. I'm not lecturing about that, of course not. I don't want any other people to suffer, but let's try to show Iran regime that we are not afraid of them. We are not under pressure because of them. Let's not be hostages of Iran regime.
so how quickly do you think Iran could rebuild its depleted stockpiles of military resources without money? With
No, without money, it's a huge problem, because at the end of the day, even if they have some help from Russia and China, they cannot rebuild it. They don't have the right even figures. For example, in the nuclear program, we eliminated 18 nuclear scientists.
right.
Two or three of them knew exactly how to make the bomb. It's a very complicated thing. The enriched uranium is not enough. You have to make a very complicated technical process, and even I don't understand that. And two or three of them, they were specializing in that place, and they are not with us. And thank God, all the other 15, or all the 15, 60, 50, 60 generals of IRGC. Oh, I have a very funny thing about the how accurate the Israeli intelligence is about those figures. Two of the IRGC generals, when they were eliminated, they were not sleeping in the house next to their wives. They were with the mistress. The wife didn't know about the mistress. Israel knew about the mistress. I suggest to be careful when you go with your phones. You don't want to be in a dangerous place with Israel. You cannot know. So yes, but this is what Israel can do. This is what US can do, because we are allies in the intelligence and all the operations. We know the same things that US knows. So we just cooperate in everything. When it goes, when US wants us, we go totally together. So they cannot do it. They cannot do it if we go on with this pressure. They have less and less people that can do that. In the missile program, it's a less problem, because it's their factories is they actually survive. They are inside some mountains, They can make more missiles. They are making more missiles. Terror, of course, it's not a problem. They can do it all the time. Even 2 or 3 weeks ago, a cell of Hamas members was captured in Berlin, and they were helped by Iran agents. So even when they are in the middle of the war, they are thinking about making terror. It's just like the Nazi regime. Uh, but if we hit their capabilities more and more and more, they can do less and less. It's not a short war. This is the, unfortunately, the certain thing.
Okay. It is not a short war, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I see, Charlie Rose, that you are unmuted. Would you like to ask your question?
Yes, I would. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sure, sir.
My question is, the front page of the New York Times today had a major article about Ahmadinejad being captured by the IRGC, and he was
Yeah,
basically, for a number of years, becoming an internal spy for the Israelis in terms of potentially becoming a leader of an uprising for essentially becoming the leader of a revolt. And now the Iranians have actually captured him, and they'll obviously dispose of him. But the question is, how do you see that process? And are there other possibilities of internal people that you could think about that might
yeah,
be similar to him, that might be internal rather than people from the outside? Because obviously, if we're going to have a regime change, it has
yeah.
to come with it has to come internally, not just external. And that article in the Times today was really, I was actually interested because I was at Columbia University when Ahmadinejad spoke,
Wow.
and I'm stunned that this has happened now. So I'm actually stunned by the whole episode. So that's why I'm actually stunned by the whole thing. So I was not a student there. I came in as a guest person from a friend of mine. But go ahead.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I'd love to hear what you think, please.
Wow, you bring me back to other years, but it's fantastic. Yes, it's a very nice story. Some of it's from the imagination. Some of it can be true. Of course, I'm not from inside of the Mossad, or I don't know any specific knowledge about that, but I can talk about the method and what could happen. First of all, about Ahmadinejad, and you're right, he is a very radical guy. But from the first day, he was kind of a very strange figure in Iran regime. For example, he believed in freedom for women. You
Right.
didn't hear about that because it was not in the newspapers, but inside Iran, he made a huge mess when he talked, even from his first day of his presidency, he talked about bringing hijab, the scarves, down. And the regime and some ayatollahs were very angry about with him, and they kind of made a compromise about that, but it was forgotten. Of course, you heard about his sayings about elimination of Israel, or there are no homosexuals in Iran. So he looked a radical guy for you. But already inside Iran from his first day, he was a very strange and kind of in with many contradictional behaviors. He was a very strange guy. So after a few years, when he finished his presidency, he also has that arrogance and hubris that in his mind, maybe he thinks that he's still the president, or he can be the leader. This brought, as it appears in these newspapers in these recent days, uh, it appears that it brought some systems, some Mossad or CIA or others, to think that they can recruit him as the spy or the next leader of free Iran. I think that the truth is in the middle. Ahmadinejad is not, maybe he's strange, but he's not stupid, and he also is guarded by many IRGC guards around him. Even the Iranian soccer game that came to US to play, and then they already lost and went back to Iran. They had so many IRGC officers with them to keep them far from the press or Americans, or talk to someone. And the Iran regime is very afraid of maybe some of them can run away and not come back to Iran, or talk to the others, to the press, and reveal some things about the evilness of Iran regime. So they don't want the connection. So how can the Iranian soccer player can be so limited, but ex-president of Iran is so free to be recruited as an agent? I don't think. Maybe they made something to have some contact, very basic contact with him. It says that they say that they made a conference, a false conference in Budapest, to bring him and to make an honor for him and let him talk, or these kind of stories. That yes, this is the method of Mossad, to make a fake thing and to bring you there and to buy you and make you curious about that. But Ahmadinejad is not so stupid, and also he has so many people around him. I don't think that everything that they say it happened. And also in these recent days, he is not in any kind of limitation. He participated in the funeral of Khamenei. Now, a few hours ago, he was in another ceremony. I don't think that most of it's real. Maybe some very small parts, but about the opposition. As I said, there are many leaders in the jails. We have a group that it's named Group of 14. They are liberal, they are democratic, they want to bring another kind of system to Iran. They are, of course, these ones are in jail. The other ones, I make a compromise, a huge compromise, but we want some kind of half a piece even. I would like to see the former president of Iran, Rouhani, that made JCPOA, to see him in a kind of position as a leader or as a president again. Not because he is a good guy. He was a murderer too. I said it before. But he knows when to be afraid of Israel or from US. He knows the power of the real superpower. And this is the reason that actually he forced in that days, in 2012, 13, and also in 2003, to make that compromise, to make the JCPOA and stop the nuclear program. And he wanted to stop also the terror program or the missile program. I would be very pleased if I saw him even in the power. But unfortunately, IRGC is controlling everything today. Sorry for the long answers, but the story is a kind of a whole thing.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
That was good. It really kind of encapsulated the whole thing. Kenny has a question. Would you like to ask it yourself, Ken?
Yes, since I didn't give it to you.
Sure.
Can you hear me? Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Hi,
I see
Beni.
the shirt
You
again.
see my shirt. AFC shirt, everybody. Getting ready for the October Chizuk mission. So Beni, again, thanks. I know we're getting close to the end. Thanks for joining us. It was great having you here. And it was great meeting you at the JNS Summit. And for all the folks out there, the summit was extraordinary. And it was the second annual. And I saw many, dozens and dozens of AFC friends. And it's most interesting. So I would encourage participation if you were interested in next year's summit, which again, I guess will be about the same time of year in Jerusalem. But
Sure.
that being said, Beni, just I want to maybe you could finish up talking about, you talked about the potential Iranian leaders, but I constantly have a problem with the administrations talking with the holding up Erdogan and Qatar and Turkey as peace partners, as board of peace managers, and so forth and so on. So if you can just talk about maybe some of the other leaders in the area and how they play and what you think their real intent is with Israel and with regard to Iran, both, that would be great.
Well, I just I don't want to go in the US side and US politics or administration, but I think someone has to do more homework about the Qataris or the Turkish leaders and not consider them as friends. They are not. They are really not. They want to bring also their empire back. They are friends of Muslim Brotherhood, that it's not less dangerous than IRGC and the Shiite groups or Iran regime. So I think US also, or West as general, have to be much more careful about these kind of countries. Qatar is buying their way to the West with a lot of money. They, as I said before, they also bring the propaganda to your streets. They bring the demonstrations with their buses, with their free lunch and dinner, and they occupy your streets every Sunday or every day, time that they are outside. Actually, a very bad thing that they do, all these demonstrations, the praying in the streets is a very bad thing. They consider it as occupying your city, your streets. For yourself, you have to be against these kind of things, because today it's praying in the streets, and tomorrow is really taking that place for themselves and forcing you, I don't know, to believe or to obey their values, and they are not liberal values. This is the main problem. But if we go back to these kind of countries or leaders and how they confront Israel, the main problem with Qatar, of course, is hosting Hamas leaders, and of course the money that they bring to these terror organizations as general. If it's, of course, Hamas, Hezbollah, as I said before, from time to time, these are Sunnis. Hezbollah and Iran regime are Shiites. They are supposed to be also enemies, but no. When it comes to hating Israel or US, maybe today they don't say that they hate US, but they hate. When it comes to that place, they help each other, they stand for each other. And of course, with the propaganda, we have Al Jazeera channel that is working against all kind of countries or ideology of the West and liberal values. So this is the main problem. Turkey actually wants to bring the Turkish Empire, the Ottoman Empire, back. They really are thinking about that. They are making ceremonies. They are, I don't know, playing the old march of when they conquered Greece or other parts of Middle East or other eastern parts of Europe. This is the bad thing. This is that propaganda that actually Iran regime does the same thing, and this is what brings them the hubris and the arrogance. And Turkey is standing in the wrong place and helping the terrorists. Of course, they are not in a war with Israel, but they are helping all those who are in war with Israel, together with Qatar. And the more actual thing that is happening in the recent days, Qatar is pressuring European countries and factories where they have their shares in those factories not to cooperate with Israel. For example, there is a factory in Germany that builds some parts for Iron Dome. They are threatening them that they will stop the budget for that factory in Germany if they won't stop the cooperation with Israel. Iron Dome is a system for defending yourself, and Qatar is threatening them not to cooperate with Israel. Turkey is doing a very dangerous maneuvers in the Mediterranean Sea, in the northern parts of Mediterranean Sea, and every time they come closer and closer to the Israeli waters, they try to come to Israel-Lebanon border in the waters. So we see that they are closing on Israel with the money, with the maneuvers. This is a very dangerous thing. Israel cannot tolerate that. Turkey can stand in a very dangerous place. We don't want another enemies. This is the reason that Israel is trying to talk with U.S. administration about Qatar, about Turkey, to try to stop these steps. But U.S. has its considerations, so we can talk and we will see what happens with that. Yes.
I think that kind of wraps it up. I mean, we obviously we question, and Amy put in a question about the selling military air equipment to Turkey. Why would we consider doing that? I mean, we don't need to. Yes,
Exactly.
they're a member of NATO, but you know, they can get their equipment elsewhere. And
Just one sentence
Qatar,
about that. Sorry to interrupt that.
that's okay.
Please do understand, it's not about selling physical things or having planes or missiles even or nuclear program. It's about who activates, who works with these things. I don't care about any kind of internal issues in Turkey, in Qatar, in Iran, in Iraq, of course, not in US or any, as long as they don't harass us, they are not hostile to liberal countries. The moment that they are talking about against liberal values, they are talking against all of us. We are in the same boat in that issue. Today it's about Israel. Tomorrow it can be, and I said it again and again, about the propaganda and the mass demonstrations. Today it's about Israel. Tomorrow it's about US, Europe, and everywhere.
Yes.
So if the words change, I don't care about the planes and anything. But as long as the words are extreme and radical, be sure that the physical thing can come to you too.
But they are
Sorry.
extreme and radical, and Qatar has infested our universities with
Exactly.
you know, very, very radical thought. And
Exactly.
you know, what you were saying is that there are signs in the US now of the way things were when you were a child in Iran. And I think that's something that we all need to be aware of. It's probably a topic for another day, but
Yeah.
it's a very, very scary thing. So I hate to end on a scary note, but unfortunately, that's the way the world is today. So thank you so much for being with us, Benny, and thank you for everybody who was here and participated and asked good questions. And we can't thank you enough, and we hope to see you again, either in person or back on a Zoom again another day. Shalom,
Thank you.
shalom to all.